the story of the week with the Lakers, it was not LeBron. It was his son, Bronny, who just finished what was undoubtedly the best game of his NBA career. It was Thursday night against the Milwaukee Bucks in Los Angeles. Bronny James. Now, admittedly, there was no Luka Doncic on the floor. There was no LeBron on the floor. So, very banged-up Lakers team. This was on Thursday, playing the Milwaukee Bucks. Lakers lose by 29 points, but Bronny James, in 30 minutes played, has 17 points, 5 assists on 7 of 10 shooting, by far the best game of his NBA career as a Los Angeles Laker. J-Mart, we have statues of Shaq and Kobe and Wayne Gretzky outside of Crypto.com Arena. Is it time to start getting the Bronny statue ready for outside of Crypto?
I'm so frustrated by this. It irritated me as it was happening, not because he had a great game or a good game. He has 17 points, and it's something you just want to be happy for him for. And I was just like, man, good for him. Like, that's a solid night for him. You know, it was a night where, you know, Jokic and Murray didn't play, but they needed him, and he was able to come in and give them something. And that's a good moment for him. That has to feel good. And because obviously he's taking a lot of criticism and all this other kind of stuff. But I knew it was going to be short-lived. Because I knew it couldn't just be about one game. It was going to be, how can we take this game and explode it into a narrative? And that's exactly what happened less than 24 hours later. And I'm just so disappointed by that. Because we can't just look at one performance and say, man, that was a great night. We have to turn it into something it's not. And that actually just ends up looking hypocritical, looking like terrible analysis, and looking like shill. You look like a shill when you do something like that. Or you look like somebody that really wants to get on somebody else's good side. And so he can't just have a good game, Aaron. And literally, like, as it happened, I was like, all right, cool. Saturday, Aaron and I can just say, hey, you know what? Bronny had a nice game on Thursday night. Good performance for him. If he never has another one, he's going to have that moment at least. Good on him. But then I read, I don't know how long the article was. I read the most fawning propaganda piece maybe I've ever read in sports earlier today by I guess a professional journalist who talked about how if you talk to the Lakers, they'll tell you that he's got the goods. They'll tell you that he's improving. I'm like, right, they're not going to say he stinks. Like, why are you including that in the article? Like, LeBron James is there. Who exactly with the Lakers organization is going to be like, look, I'm going to be real and make sure you attach my name to this in the article. Bronny is straight up garbage. He is dog water. Like, no one's going to say that about him. And even if it wasn't LeBron's kid, they wouldn't say that. But all this stuff about how hard he works and how he's a great kid, and literally this article said, I mean, this is a guy that gets up at 8 a.m. every morning. Congratulations. I get up at 6. Like, what? It's not that there's anything wrong with getting up at 8, but I don't know that needs to be included in some kind of he's very dedicated because he gets up at 8 a.m. stuff. Like, he had 17 points. I wanted to be able to celebrate that as what it was, a 17-point night, an isolated night for now. Like, he may never do it again. We have no idea. Best game of some people's career turns out to be their first one, and they're never able to do it again. He actually now, I will give him this. I saw this stat, and I feel like it bears mention before we continue down this pathway. I want to give Bronny James credit. He has more career three-pointers right now than a former number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft.
Michael Olowokandi?
Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons!
Ben Simmons had 5. Bronny has 6.
Ben Simmons, back from the grave. I thought his career... Listen, Bronny is somehow... this is the thing. Again, we're criticizing Bronny when we're just frustrated with the circumstances.
We're just angry that we can't enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
Like, we can't even enjoy this because we know it's going to have to be something bigger when it absolutely is not. And it looks and sounds phony and foolish and ignorant to go the places that I've seen people in our industry go in the last 2 days.
So, couple things. Shout out Ben Simmons. My guess is he's probably got more career threes than Michael Olowokandi as well.
I would say that's probably true too. Yes.
But I was not ready for the Ben Simmons mic drop right there. But no, is that look again, and we'll do the whole thing. Every time we're criticizing Bronny, it's not that we're rooting against him. It's the circumstances in which he's here that we're force fed, that we're supposed to believe that this is a thing. All right. Listen, I try not to call out other media members, but I'm just going to say it. Like, I just Googled the same thing you did, and the first thing that I see, Kendrick Perkins tells Stephen A. Smith, that he's got to take the L on Bronny. And here's my thing, J-Mart. And I said this on Friday. I was filling in for Doug Gottlieb with Dan Byer. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard the name Matthew Hurt before? Is that a name that like rings a bell for you? Does that do anything for you?
Yeah, I believe he's the sales associate that my wife put her name down on the list for a Highlander hybrid a couple weeks ago at the Toyota dealership.
He was the guy that promised you a timeshare. You just had to sit through a 45-minute
Right. Trip to Myrtle Beach. Yeah.
No. In all seriousness, so Matthew Hurt. So last year, it was sometime in the spring. It was probably right after the NCAA tournament. And we all know, end of the year, a lot of teams are trying to just end the season. And I remember being here in the Fox Sports, the TireRack.com studios, and I'm watching this Grizzlies game. And the Grizzlies have literally people I've never heard. Remember, Ja got hurt early. The season was a wash, whatever. And they had guys on the court that I had literally never heard of. And I'm somebody who covers college basketball. I'd like to think I know most of the guys in the NBA, even if I don't follow the NBA. And so I bring it up because when I saw Bronny hit 17, I go, I swear I was watching a game where Matthew Hurt played really well last year for the Grizzlies at the end of the season. And I looked it up. Matthew Hurt, who, was a former McDonald's All-American, whatever, played in Duke, no impact at Duke, whatever. He was playing on the Grizzlies last year, the 2023-2024 season, and had a game where he scored 30 points. Matthew Hurt is now playing for the Southeast Melbourne United of the NBL in Australia. A guy who scored 30 last year in an NBA game is now in Australia playing. And so I only bring it up because guess what? Bad G League guys get called up for injury-riddled teams all the time. By the way, Matthew Hurt's a young guy. It's not like he's like a 28-year-old journeyman. He's like 22 years old. I bring it up. G League guys get called up all the time. Somebody has to put the ball in the basket when Luka and LeBron and basically nobody is playing. And so the fact that a G League guy had a decent game in a game that was a 29-point loss when your two superstars aren't playing. By the way, someone named Jordan Goodwin was starting in this game. Again, I think I know a little bit about college. Never heard of Jordan Goodwin until this season. We're not talking about Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. And so to me, listen, good for Bronny. He had an opportunity, he took advantage of that. That's not hating, good for him. But to act like this has to be a thing because it's Bronny when random dudes step up all the time in games where starters are out because of injuries and that we have to make it a thing and that we have to assume it matters, like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't matter. And by the way, maybe 17 on Friday leads to 22 next week and then 26 the week. And if that happens, if he consistently puts together these games, game after game after game after game after game, then okay, I'm happy to talk about it. But a random 17-point game when Luka and LeBron were not on the court, like I said, G League dudes come up to the NBA and put up good games in losing efforts all the time. We don't have to make it a thing just because it is LeBron James' son.
So I don't even have to call the guy out by name because everybody's going to know who I'm talking about here. When you get into an altercation in the media with a player, let's just suggest he's a pretty famous player and he has a son that's playing in the NBA. And it seems as if it's about your critique of his son. Maybe didn't deserve to be drafted, maybe wasn't ready, maybe he was put in a bad situation by his father, even though his father's a really good guy and a really good dad and clearly wants the best for his son, and all that kind of stuff. So you say all that. Then you have the altercation and you kind of stick by it the next time that you're asked about it. And then this son goes and has 17 points. And then the next time that you're on TV, the headline coming off of your performance that day on TV, the headline on the website for the company that is now paying you, let's just suggest a lot of money about this hypothetical individual. The comment underneath the picture says, I may have to admit I was wrong about Bronny. What are we doing here? Like, everything that you said before, within a couple of weeks of being challenged face-to-face, being caught on camera that way, and then having to talk about it and all this other kind of stuff, within a couple of weeks, you're now suggesting that, you know what, maybe I was wrong because he had 17 points in this very isolated situation. I was kind of baffled by it. Because this person, it seems like he would not have been the one to do that in this spot. And when I saw it, I immediately screen grabbed it and sent it to you because I was just like, really? This is what we're doing? It's embarrassing, honestly. It's embarrassing to media. It's embarrassing to the profession at all. It's embarrassing to basketball, and it does nothing for Bronny at all. Like, you can't even enjoy it because it gets blown out of proportion, and it's that way in the comment sections. I'm sure it's that way on social media. It's the same way. It's just like, guys, can we not overreact to it? Can it not just be a good day? And yeah, as you said, if this thing became a trend, everybody's going to start to talk about it. But he has one game, and now all of a sudden it's like, we were all wrong. 50 other teams passed on a surefire. Like, what? Why? We understand what you're doing here when you do that, and we understand why you're doing it. And it's not as cool as you think it is, and it's also very easy to see through, and the integrity word goes out the window, and that's the problem.
Let me ask you a question, and so, like, let's be fair, because I am curious, and you know, I was talking yesterday about this, it's hard. What do they say? Sometimes it's hard to separate the art from the artist. Like, you can appreciate the art, but whatever. And
right.
it's still hard for me to separate how Bronny got into the league, the narratives that we were forced down our throat versus what he is doing in the league. And so my question for you, because I don't want to root against him, I want this to feel like it's 100% merit-based. And I will admit, I'm having a little bit of trouble trying to figure out what he would actually have to do for me to be like, oh, no, he belongs. I don't know how many games, I don't know how many weeks, I don't know how many this, I don't know how many that. How much longer does he have to consistently, maybe not do what he did, but prove that he is a serviceable role player? By the way, again, not when there's injuries, not when LeBron's, you know, in an ice tub during the game, not when Luka's sitting there in street clothes. How much longer does it have to go? Because, again, I don't want to be a prisoner of the original take, which is that he didn't belong, but I also am not going to change the take because he had one good game in a blowout loss when all the starters weren't playing either.
Yeah, I mean, that is the problem. You're never going to be able to completely get the taste out of your mouth of how he got into the league. And that's going to dog him no matter what he does. Now, he's going to have to, if he's able to stand on his own 2 feet down the road or whatever like that, and he does turn into whatever you just described, a serviceable role player, whatever it is, then I do think that we'll start to say, you know what, he didn't deserve to be here, but at the very least he's taken full advantage of this opportunity. He's not just resting on the fact that, you know, his name got him here. He's actually doing the work. He's putting in the work. He's doing all the things that you would want him to do, and he's showing now that even if he didn't belong then, he's earning his keep now. And you know, I think that's about as good as it can get, and that's only if he really does get to a spot where I'm just not sure his talent is going to take him. Like, I just don't know that he's got that level of talent to where he's ever going to be able to do enough to justify being put into this role in the first place. And that's unfortunate for him because, again, to your point, not rooting against him in any way, there's not really a reason to do it. But also, it's very hard to feel any of what he's doing is legit, because even though he's making the most of this opportunity, it's one he shouldn't have had. It's one that no one really believes he deserved in the moment because, well, he didn't. And that there was one reason why he was able to kind of cut the line, get the fast pass at the amusement park. And we know what that is. And so I don't know the answer to that question, Aaron. I have no idea what he would have to do to really make that thing work. I don't know that there is a thing that he can do outside of just become really, really good. And I just don't think he's got that. That's not his ceiling, in my opinion.